All right, hey YouTube, we're doing a video, and this video is a highly requested video, so to speak. We've had people in the comments look for it. I've had customers in the store ask about it. It's not that hard, but you want to make sure you do it right. I understand. When I put mine together, I had multifarious help me. I wanted to make sure I did it right. So thank you for asking. Thank you for putting the request out there. Hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to understand. I am a teacher during the day, so of course I had to go and grab my whiteboards from school with different colors to try and make this as easy as we can. So the very first thing I did was I took my live scope. I'm running a 73 SV on a shuttle made by Summit Fishing, and I took it out of the bag. That just makes it too confusing. And I have the transducer just kind of sitting off to the side. So we're not looking at that part today. We're looking at the actual wiring of the battery, the wiring of the switch, which is kind of confusing. And then I wired one additional piece on, which you can, or you could omit that piece. That's just a USB converter. So it converts that power from 12 volt into USB inverter, converter, whatever it is, and I can charge my batteries, phone, etc. on the ice. Let's get started. All right, here are a couple items that you're gonna need to do this project. When you get your Garmin black box, if you're buying it this way, you're in here, you get the black box and the transducer for 1,500 bucks, at least at the time when I got it. You're gonna get a power cable in here. You're not gonna use, excuse me, this is the power cable. You're not gonna use this. You're gonna get the power cable that I talked about earlier that you need instead of this one. So just leave this in the box. A couple other things I had to get from the hardware store. Shrink wrap tubing. This is a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch, 18 to 10 AWG heat shrink tubing. Potentially a little big, but it seemed to work well. I wanted to get some female disconnects, 16 to 14. I got AMP spade terminals to run my screws into the battery and make everything nice and firm. And the last little package I got were these butt splices. And this is for 12 to 10 gauge wire. So those were the 4 packages I got. Just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus, you're gonna need some random wire. You're going to need, you could use, it doesn't matter, but I wanted to make it nice and easy for me to understand. So I got a couple different sizes just to try out. I just went to the hardware store and had them cut off a couple sections. Like I said before, I'm not sure if this is 10 or if this is 8. Of course, it doesn't say on here. Maybe it does in some code, but I am not an electrician. I'm not sure. Pardon my phone going off. Does not say. This one, you would think would say 12. So I used 12. This is pretty stout and thick. I used this in a couple spots, and I also used this 10 in a couple spots. So have extra wire handy, as well as your little boxes. Okay, now let's get to the wiring. Okay, I'm gonna turn this around and give you a view of, I'm just gonna give you a nice view of all sides of the shuttle. Pause the video if you need to. Study the diagram. I'm gonna try and make it so you can see every bit of this basic unit. Then I'm gonna go on the whiteboards and describe kind of how we did it. So here's the basic diagram that I've drawn up so far. I have not labeled it because I wanna show you what the actual live scope looks like. So you're looking at this right now. Here's my transducer just sitting over here to the side. We're not worried about that. What we're worried about is how the heck did you wire this and why did you wire it this way? So I'm going to just slowly pan across so you can see the switch. There are 3 ports on the switch. We have a black, we have a red, and of course then we have another red down here. On this side, this is additional. I put this here myself. This does not come with a shuttle. It is your converter for USB port. Right at the front, I get a USB cord, which is handy for charging batteries. Just standard female end of a USB port. Remember, pause the video at any time. This is where you might also need to study the video. This is a 30 amp hour battery by Amped Outdoors. It's a lithium. In order to run in the shuttle, you need to get the tall version. If you're running this in a Garmin box, which you're probably not if you're watching this video, that Garmin kit, you can put a wide. Either way, I highly recommend the 30 amp hour battery. Put it in most customers' carts because you need it. Here are a couple wires that you'll want to see as well. Really, you don't need to see the front, but you can. Turn it around. Normally, this whole set of wires I have coming out the front so I can easily charge. That's the only reason. This is not used. It's from Garmin. This is from Amped Outdoors. You need to use their charger. Front of the box looks just like this. Battery, unit, switch on the side, turns blue when you turn it on. And for me, I have my USB coming out the front for charging purposes. Like I said, you don't normally have any of these wires. I have them neatly coming out of here so I can easily charge that. I'm gonna spin it around one more time and talk about the wiring system. It's a heavy unit altogether. And what's nice about having the bag, it protects everything and keeps it all nice and neat. You don't want to be nicking any of these, especially when you have an auger, especially when you're in the cold and your sled throwing things in. I highly recommend the bag. I've said this also plenty of times. I also highly recommend having the Summit Outdoors transducer protector. It slides on like a glove. This just sits here. Hard to do one-handed, but it fits on perfectly, and then you can snap this bracket down. I have this on anytime I'm not using the transducer. Really just protects everything. Before we get into that diagram, just want to show you the 2 things I have here. This is just similar, not the exact one, to the inverter I'm using. All there is a red and black wire, and it pops out a couple USB ports. This piece, however, is a piece that you will need. We don't need that Shields ad. We need the Garmin Panoptix LiveScope power cable. Not the text from my mother, but you do need this power cable. The reason you need this is because it gives you everything you need so you don't have to be splicing and cutting all your wires. I'm gonna show you on this diagram exactly why. To make this a little bit easier, I think I'm gonna remove all 3 of these just for now so you can see how the wires get where they need to go. Let's first talk about the 2 wires coming right out of the back of the battery. I wanted to charge my battery, or this whole unit, excuse me, which mainly is this battery, without flipping that power switch on and on and on and off. So what I did, I went directly to the battery. So we have my charger. This is from Amped Outdoors. You have to use their charging. Yes, Garmin gives you a little bracket, but I didn't want to use that one. I am using Amped Outdoors charger. that I spliced into. The only reason I had to splice this was because I had to get this out the front of my unit and I needed longer wires. So I'm gonna run this charger, just bump this camera back just a little bit. We're gonna run this charger, of course, black. I used, I think, 12 gauge or 10 gauge extra wire to the black. So black to black. And of course, we took the red from the charger to the red on the battery. You can exactly see that same portion I drew here, just like this. Step one. Now, let's talk about our switch and everything else. So the cable I mentioned before from Garmin that you need is this LiveScope power cable. The reason being is you want to charge and power your whole unit. You can power your actual head unit and your black box. This is for a random accessory. You do not have to use that, but that's how I used my USB switch. And then over here, that is how you charge the unit. That's the one I omitted from my diagram. And of course, these two go to your battery. Once again, head unit, or vice versa, but head unit, black box, these two guys. This is an optional accessory. This is a charger we are not using because we have to use the amped outdoors. So you could disregard that wire. And then all of it is powered through the black and the red. Now let's show you on here how we did that. All right, let's talk about this. I wanted to make my switch so it controlled my whole box. So the top, all I did was take a black wire and I'm running it from the very top port. So I'm gonna take my black from the top, run it to my battery. Done. But we need to use our Garmin cable, which is shown here, to power everything. This is already plugged into everything. My Garmin cable, which is the black wire right there, also needs to come to that battery. So I merged them with shrink wrap tubing right here. You do not have to, but I wanted it to be nice and neat. So I merged them together. Okay. Next step, you need to power the unit with your red cord coming out of this power cable. So of course, this is where you have to pay attention. You have to use the bottom. We're leaving out the middle, so we use the top, skip the middle for now, use the bottom part of the switch, and this guy is gonna come all the way into that Garmin cable, which is right here. Okay? Now you need to take an extra red wire, just a 10 or 12 gauge wire. I forgot which exact size I used, and I don't have a measuring apparatus. Extra red wire, in order to make your switch function, is gonna come from here, in the middle, across, and to your battery. You can pause the video if you need to. If you remember, this guy right here is for additional accessories. Well, I have an additional accessory sitting over here. It charges my USB little piece, which is quite handy. So if you have one, I'd put it on. That has a red, that has a black. So I'm gonna draw another red and a black coming out of the top. This is gonna be for my Garmin accessories, ACC. We have a black, a red, and a black coming out of that. Of course, those need to come over to my USB port, so I'm gonna draw a line from here. I neatly tuck them behind all of this so you can't see that, but for your sake and purpose, I'm gonna draw this just like this. Black goes to black, red goes to red. Everything is shown here. Go back and look at this, pause the video. Take a screenshot of this, pause the video. Look at this, pause the video. Take your time so you don't mess this up. This is what the video looks like using some of the items I talked about in the very beginning. We ended up using some shrink wrap tubing. We ended up using some splicing connectors. Basically, I have 2 wires coming out of the black, 2 wires coming out of the red, positive. And I wanted to make it nice and neat, so that's why I kind of connected things, spliced things, and you, of course, could probably even make it even neater. This, for me, gets tucked back in there when the video is over, but I wanted to show you exactly how this is laid out.